Ford F-Series pickup trucks, introduced 76 years ago, reigned unchallenged for 47 years as the best-selling truck and 42 years the best-selling vehicle of any kind. And those records just got shattered. Today, they got humbled into a dismal third place. Who knocked them off that pedestal? What could possibly erase decades of innovation, performance, and customer loyalty associated with one of America's best-selling trucks? Well, join us as we uncover key insights into the automotive industry and discuss what this means for the very survival of the Ford Motor Company. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on the latest automotive trends and news. The primary role of any CEO of any company is to set the direction that the company is heading in. And that direction is usually why they pay the big bucks, because these guys they take on as chief executive officers are usually experts in their field. They can see what's happening. They might have a long track record of having done amazingly well with other companies. And so they are valued and paid accordingly for their knowledge of the industry. Now, Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, he has driven the company forward, but not very successfully. The EV development is pretty much dead. That was a total flop. And so he's regrouped, retrenched. And what he's doing now is going back to the core business, which is the F-150 pickup trucks and the corporate side of the business, the commercial side, government contracts, military and the like. And that's his way forward. He's also decided to go very much upmarket so that they make a higher profit margin on each car. It doesn't cost a fortune to add an extra 10 speakers and a subwoofer into an existing car, but you can then charge $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 more for that package. And that's where they make a lot of their money. Now, Jim Farley took Ford into the EV era a good few years ago, and it's fair to say there's been a total flop. They've sold some cars, but nothing worth mentioning. They're certainly not in the top 10 selling list anywhere in the world, and they struggle to get into any of the top 10 selling lists, even in America. So there's been a bad experience for them. And they've also lost a huge amount of money. That was money that could have been invested in other areas. So since the primary role of any CEO is the direction of the company, I think we have to say that Jim Farley took the company in a very wrong direction. However, companies go through this all the time. This is not the end of the world. What is important is what happens, how you get yourself out of it. And Jim Farley recently, I've questioned many times with a number of videos as to what he's actually doing, because what he seems to be doing is putting on hold all EVs and concentrating back on the petrol version, the commercial side, the pickup side of the business, and also hybrid vehicles. And that's his direction, and I think he's regrouping and he'll come back to it at a future time. But when you set a direction, you have to make certain assumptions. You have to assume the economy will still be thriving in 1, 3 or 5 or 10 years' time when your plans come to fruition. You have to assume that people will still be loyal to Ford Motor Company and carry on buying. And so when you're producing a business plan, there are a certain number of factors that are set in stone. These are, there'll always be customers for Ford. They will always buy our cars. We'll never lose them to anyone else. That's our core business. So anything we do can't affect them. That's one of the ones set in stone. And they've also had another one set in stone recently, which is EVs, that they can't make them at a profit. And so they have decided, well, if we can't make them at a profit, let's just ship that out to China. So a lot of the new cars now being made actually in China or in Chinese ventures, joint ventures. And they go back to the core business, which is the F-150 pickup. And quite often in history, we find that the assumptions that a CEO makes about the guaranteed parts, the core parts of the business, turn out to be totally wrong. We look at Nokia, for example, not very long ago, just over 20 years ago, best-selling mobile phone manufacturer in the whole world by far. They were up there. If anyone wanted a phone, it was a Nokia phone. And then along came Apple, and they decided that no, the phone's out of date. What we need is smartphones, no keyboards, no none of this. We need a decent camera, a decent processor, decent memory. Let's get that to do everything that your home computer can do. And of course, Nokia laughed at that. Yeah, we're the experts. We've been doing it. This is an upstart company, never going to make any money. We know where that one went. Kodak film is another one. One point, Kodak just made films for the professionals and for 90% of the amateurs, us amateur photographers. And that was set in stone. If you wanted a film, you bought a Kodak. If you're a professional, you'd use Kodak Ektachrome, which is the slides. If you wanted just photographs, you'd use the Kodachrome. And that was set in stone. They were never going to lose that. And then, of course, they developed themselves the first of the digital cameras. And within a very short period of time, nobody was buying the Kodak film anymore. It wasn't instant, but the people buying the film dropped off a cliff rapidly, and the people buying digital cameras, digital smartphones just shot up rapidly. So there was a transition. So they were people who got it wrong. And today, Jim Farley has shown that whatever he decided was the reason for what he's done, he's got it very wrong. Now, the F-150 pickup truck, it's a core staple of American vehicles. Everyone's got a pickup truck over there, and that is pretty much a guaranteed market until now. So what's gone wrong? 20, 30, 40 years ago, when they were breaking all these records, yeah, the American businessman, he would have a pickup truck, and he would be a carpenter, a bricklayer, a builder, an electrician, and they needed the pickup truck to cart stuff around, to tow trailers with stuff in them for the business. And it was the core part of American society. Was the guy with the pickup truck would arrive and fix your roof or mow your lawn, whatever it was, and the pickup truck ruled supreme. We're not there today. That was the past. Today, more Americans work in an office than actually drive around in pickup trucks. Well, no, I'll correct that. More Americans work in offices or an office-based environment than drive around in pickup trucks that they use as a core part of their business. And that's why Jim Farley saw that the future sales for Ford was simply F1 pickup trucks, but as luxury vehicles. Let's turn it not into a pickup truck, but let's have it so you can use it as a pickup truck, but you can also use it to take the family out at the weekend. Clip on the speedboat on the back and tow down to the boat ramp. Put in your camping gear or tow your caravan and go off into the mountains. To make it a multi-function vehicle. And in doing so, he increased the price of it. So if you look today at the price of a typical mid-range pickup truck in America, you're looking at $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, and some of the top ones, $120,000, $130,000. So that was the gamble, that people would want these big, expensive pickup trucks. But the second thing that they relied on, Jim Farley, was that the economy would enable people to just borrow more and keep on borrowing more and buying whatever it is they produce, because that's the era they were brought up in. You would just, whenever your old one was wearing out a bit, just go and swap it in for a new one, put it on a finance plan, off you go again. But then we got what? Inflation. We got high interest rates. We got job insecurity. We got wages which haven't grown over in America for a long time. And all of a sudden, people in America suddenly stopped having this excess money, but more important, stopped having the credit. And people were tying themselves up for longer and longer periods. Would you believe over in America, a lot of people have an 8-year finance plan on a car? You buy a new car, you finance it for 8 years. The chances are you don't keep a car for 8 years, but that's what they have to do to be able to afford it at today's higher interest rates. So what was happening with Jim Farley was when he was producing his plan for how to get Ford out of this disaster that was an introduction into the EV world and back to where they really need to be, didn't take into account that quietly behind his back, the world, the economy, and the American people had actually moved on. He should have got his first cue last year when the Tesla Model Y, this is a $50,000 car, became the world's best selling car ever. Not EV, any fuel ever. It hit the top spot in 2023 for the best car ever. And that should have started warning bells going. Then Tesla eventually, finally, long last, nobody thought they'd do it, but they released the Cybertruck, and Jim Farley just dismissed it. It's for those, Silicon Valley yuppies who like to pose in front of their big properties on the seafront. Our core business is pickup trucks, and they will never take that. Our pickup truck drivers will never drive that stuff. So we need to make more of them, and we need to make them better. And unfortunately for him, the Cybertruck came onto the market and it was the top of the range. As it always is. It was a limited edition model and it was up at about $120,000. And it was an instant bestseller. And that should have been a warning to Jim Farley, because he was trying to sell pickup trucks at £120,000 and the dealers were absolutely full of unsold vehicles at that price. Tesla comes along, puts one up $120,000, and it's sold out. It's sold out for, I think there's 2 million advance pre-orders. And the vast majority of those are waiting for the other models to come onto the scene, particularly the low model, the introductory model, which is supposedly priced at about $40,000. Well, if the Cybertruck comes out at $40,000 at any time in the future, that's actually going to destroy absolutely every pickup industry in the world, because Ford no longer makes one down at $40,000, let alone a Cybertruck, which is all singing, all dancing, status symbol, celebrity must-have. It's got everything. So the writing's been on the wall for an awful long time. And Ford has always done things to protect their core business. Whatever happens, whatever we do, we must not upset our core business. And for the first time ever, that core business is now starting to disappear. In fact, it's already gone. Now, when I look at figures, I never look at a single day, week, or even a month, because things change quite quickly. We saw this in Germany recently, where the German government just removed all subsidies for EVs, and their sales have plummeted. So you get these one-offs. Tesla, for example, might find they've got 10,000 Model 3s coming out of the factory in China, and they haven't pre-sold them. So they will drop the price $5,000 to try and move those on before they're even made. And so these spot changes happen all the time. So when you're looking at sales figures, the important thing to do is don't look at a day, a week, a month, look over a period of time. Now this year, 2024, we're now in towards the end of September. We're just starting to get an idea of what the third quarter sales figures are. They won't be announced for several days or weeks yet. Some companies, legacy companies, might not do it until October or November. So we need to look a little bit further back, and we need to look a lot longer. So we're going to look at the first half. It's called H1 and it's 2024. So this covers from the 1st of January to the 30th of June. So it's a 6-month period. So any variations to do with strikes or product shortages, part shortages, subsidies being removed or added, these should even out over a 6-month period. And then we don't compare that to one specific day, week or month in 2023. We compare it to 2023 H1. So the first half of 2023. That will get rid of seasonal variation. And when we look at H1 2024, the F-Series pickup trucks have just dropped from the leading place for 40 odd years down to third place, and they've been beaten by two vehicles. And the actual vehicles are very surprising, because the first one it's beaten by is the Tesla Model Y. And you would think these are strange bedfellows. You know, I'm going to buy a car. Do I buy a pickup truck or do I buy a Model Y EV? It's not synonymous. They're not in direct competition. And yet the Model Y is taking a huge amount of business away from the pickup trucks. So Model Y came within an absolute whisper, just a few thousand cars, of actually hitting #1 best-selling vehicle in America in the first half of 2024. And it was topped by the tiniest margin by the Toyota RAV4, which is a pickup type vehicle, but very much on the cheaper end. So two vehicles now have overtaken Ford. And that just is now a big question mark in the mind of Jim Farley. Oops, have I got it wrong? Have I relied on our core customers always buying our pickup trucks, and that will keep the company going, whatever else succeeds or fails, and it's now failing in its own right? So that actually brings the whole of Ford Motor Company into question. Well, the pickup truck market is now falling. That's a fact. We will wait to see the figures at the end of this quarter, and that will give us an indication of whether it was just a one-off or whether it's a trend. But when you look around some of the YouTube channels I see, I look at the stock of vehicles in the dealers over in America, and there's row after row after row of pickup trucks unsold, and they're all up in the $80, $90, $100, $120,000 range, and just nobody's buying them, but they won't drop the prices. So we're going to see in just a matter of days now the first of the figures, probably a week, 10 days maybe, the first of the figures for Q3, the third quarter, which is July, August, September 2024. That will make very fascinating reading, because if the Ford pickup truck is still not back up on top and still languishing down third or even lower, then that's a terminal warning for Ford Motor Company. Because if they have lost the pickup truck business, people just aren't buying them. The interesting thing, they haven't lost them to anyone else. Tesla may be the one exception, but they're not selling enough Cybertrucks to actually make that big a difference to the F-150 market that used to be there. So it's not the Cybertruck, although that's the start of the rot. So we're going to see whether they've lost the pickup market. We're going to see whether the EV market is going to continue to crash as they bring in these just rebadged cars from China and other places, stick a Ford badge on it and sell it at a ridiculous price. Last we heard, they were losing over $50,000 a car doing that. So that's a non-sustainable business. So now you've got a question. You can't sell your core product, which is the F-Series pickup trucks. You can't sell EVs because you've now just bailed out of it. Where on earth does Ford go? And of course, one of the questions is, could they go back into the small car market? Because this is the one that seems to be bubbling a little bit. But here's the killer for Ford. That market is just about to be swamped by the Chinese introducing their ultra budget EVs in the small market. Things like the BYD Seagull, like the Dacia Spring, like the Hyundai Ioniq 2. There's a load of vehicles coming, not all Chinese, there's a load of vehicles coming onto the market. The new Renault 5, new Citroën EC3. They're all coming onto the market. Tesla Model 2, if it appears later this year or next year. And so if Ford want to try and get back into the small family car or small family saloon or runabout, that market is shrinking rapidly to the EVs. And so Ford now is in a real dilemma. Everything they relied on has now gone. So Jim Farley is looking as though he's heading towards becoming the next Kodak film or the next Nokia mobile phone in a world that has moved on without him being able to do anything at all about it. Well, we're going to be monitoring this on a big time because the figures will be coming out over the next week or 10 days. My prediction is that the market's gone forever for Ford Motor Company, and I cannot see any way forward for Ford to get themselves out of it. Well, if you've got any comments, if you think I'm right or wrong, just leave your comments down below. We do read them all and we have a look at everything that's going on. If any of you can spot the way out of this, please let us know. We'll analyse it ourselves. But as things stand at the moment, Ford is in a very, very precarious situation at the same time as several others who've also made bad decisions. Volkswagen, for example, are also in very serious trouble and openly holding their hands up and saying, yeah, we've got, what was it? Oliver Bloom, VW CEO, we've got 2 years to turn around the company. 2 years. If your CEO says that, you've got a problem. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I'm Dave, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button. Please also subscribe, makes such a difference to us. And if you would like to support the channel, have a look at our Patreon page. Patreon members get access to a lot of things that we don't normally put up on YouTube. There are community chats, there are meetups, we do some videos that we don't show on YouTube, including behind the scenes and bloopers. So if you would like to support the channel, we would welcome that greatly. I'm Dave.